At 7 p.m., please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome guests. The school board will convene to close session tonight to consider employment promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin statutes 19.85 for N1 for NC, district administrator evaluation, administrator contracts, certified staffing for 2019-2020, and the girls high school soccer varsity assistant coach position. Did we have any guests other than presenters sign up to speak? No? Okay, then we have some presentations. So Mr. Lukey, I will let you introduce.
Yes, our first two presenters are our first two presenters are going to present our options with the $20 million in bonds came in last week for investing those for the short term until they're needed to pay the project bills as they roll in. Our first presenters are Prudent Man Advisors, and we have Josh and Matt here.
Thank you, Kyle.
No.
I'm Matt. That's Josh. Josh has been with PMA for over 10 years now, serving Wisconsin clients in a number of ways, including bond proceeds management. And I've been with PMA now for about 3 years. What Josh is handing out to you right now is the exhibits, and then in the front is a synopsis of all of the questions delivered to you in RFP format. You good?
I'm ready.
Okay. So kind of just to begin things, these slides are going to go in order of the questions. So A is a firm background, similar to question A, which asks for a background. So PMA, 30 years ago, was founded actually by a former business official, kind of on the heels of the savings and loan crisis. He saw a need for developing a method of telling what the actual health of a financial institution is and sharing that with schools, because a lot of public funds were lost in the S&L crisis. And so it's developed over time. Our investment philosophy has always remained the same over those 30 years, beginning first with safety, liquidity, and then yield. Those also are the three things that Kyle and Carl had told us that are most important to them, and we'll speak to those things a little bit later. Experience and expertise, 35 years, I said 30, that we've been serving the state. And then right now we serve over 185 school districts in the state of Wisconsin, and we've got $26.8 billion of assets under administration as of the end of the third quarter. So 20 years of which we've been providing BPM services, including $11 billion in BPM proceeds over the last decade. We are all securities licensed professionals, so we understand the ins and outs of the financial market. We understand exactly what the Fed is talking about, where rates are going to be going, and we relay that information to our clients. We also have in-house arbitrage reporting expertise. We've been providing that for the duration of that 20-year period as well. So we provide that expertise to you guys upon request, but also in the form of monthly reporting, which is very important for districts looking at arbitrage and yield restriction payments. We also are the marketers and administrators to WISC, which is the Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperative. Sebastopol previously was a member of, they are, you guys currently are, I should say, a WISC participant. It began, I believe, with a district administrator by the name of Joseph McMahon, maybe 15 years ago. And WISC benefits from board oversight. So we have a board of commissioners that is made up of Kyle and Carl's peers. Actually, here. So this is the current representation of the WISC Board of Commissioners. It's compiled of business managers from around the state. We get together on a quarterly basis, and they tell us what the school districts in the state are looking for in terms of services. And they guide us in terms of how we should offer those services and how we should be paid for those services.
Bond proceeds management is one of those services that 15, 16 years ago they said, hey, districts that are getting in these large sums for bond proceeds aren't maybe used to handling that kinds of capital. The local banks might not be used to it. So that was one service that they recommended we put together to help districts just kind of manage those proceeds, help them with the investment process, and then also just the federal and state regulations with that, making sure that we're directing arbitrage for clients. So that's one program among many other programs that they have. Cash flow programs, things like that we provide through WISC. So this presentation is PMA, but you open up a WISC account, you join that network of 185 schools, and this is just one of those services that's included with your WISC membership.
So the nearest WISC commissioner to you guys would be Becky Hansen at Kimberly. I don't know if any of you guys know Becky, one person. So question B, investment earnings. So kind of to preface what you guys will be looking at in Exhibit A, which would be the interest indication that we provided to you guys. Going back to how PMA was founded, we developed a prudent man analysis. Josh has brought one for you guys if somebody would care to take a look. It is an analysis of a financial institution. I believe the one that we have is State Bank of Cross Plains. And what it does is it shows you the true bill of health of that financial institution. So the school can understand and make a more well-informed decision as to where to place their dollars. And so every single one of the investments that you see on that list is at an institution that has gone through our credit analysis, which is above and beyond what the ratings agencies that rate those institutions will do. So the other thing to know about our indication is that it provides net rates to you. So you're going to know your bottom line. We're not going to provide you gross rates projections or estimates of where rates are going to be in the future. So analyzing potential arbitrage scenarios is always something that we try and do beforehand. It's a little bit difficult if you don't have the proper documentation. But we will look at one illustration that utilizes your specific bond yield, which was provided by Bond Counsel. So we can take a look a little bit as to what you guys may expect for arbitrage and yield restriction. Just really surface about arbitrage. So when you're borrowing in a tax-exempt environment and then investing in a taxable market, the spread between those two yields is what is called arbitrage. And there's a set of requirements that you need to comply with depending on the issue of debt that you have. And if you comply with those, then you get to keep all of the earnings. And if you don't, then there's a calculation at the end that needs to be done, and a certain amount may need to be paid back to the IRS. So that would be Exhibit A.
Yeah, I'll take them through that. So take a look at Exhibit A. What we're showing here is the $20 million of bond anticipation notes that have already closed. The district already received those. So this is investing that $20 million out to your draw schedule. And then what this is showing here is we did include a line item for gross interest income. We had these rates that were provided are done as of yesterday. So we actually bid these all out. Banks came back. We analyzed all the banks that came back, put them on this interest indication. This one piece this would be missing is we definitely like to kind of partner with your local banks. So one extra investment that could be on this would be any local bank participation that they would want to have. If there are a local bank maybe that has been itching to work with the district, you're a little unsure of maybe their financial standing, we will also do a prudent man analysis on any local banks that you want, maybe before, just to give you a little extra comfort before you place any funds with those locals. So on here, you can see here the gross interest earnings was about $1,115,000. PMA's fee we broke out on there was about $45,228. which would leave a net interest income of $1,070,000. Now, if you look at this, the whole draw schedule we have is not included on here, so we wanted to just show, and I think Carl and Kyle wanted to compare apples to apples. So this is just showing $20 million. You'll see a gap there from October through July of 20. And what we did was sort of maximize the projected interest earnings. We left a hole right there and invested this out longer in the draw schedule. What that did was allow what this interim gap would be is you're going to have an additional, I think it's $5.1 million. That'll be closing in 2020. That would sort of fund that interim draw, and there's also donations coming in that can kind of help to fund that little gap there. But this is always done with the conversation with the district, with the business officials. So we will just say to them, here's what we have, here's the draw schedule, here's how we're laying it out. We will usually also curve these to sort of match what the interest rate response was on that. So if there's a 12-month term that's paying a much higher interest than a 13, 14, 15-month term, we might want to pull those investments back to a 12-month term. So those are just all kind of conversations we have based on where current market rates are, and then just analyzing with the district, comparing local banks, comparing all of our national network of banks, and then also we definitely look at like U.S. Treasuries and government agencies as well. Those can be a nice sort of investment too if they can fit in here. Those will also allow for a little bit of liquidity if you need to sell those early.
Thank you, Josh.
I should say too, all of the investments on here, everything that came back we have is all FDIC insured. You'll see an ICS account on there. I think we'll talk about that a little later. ICS account is a program managed by Promontory. If you send institution that works with Promontory $1 million, they send that $1 million to 4 different banks to keep that all under that $250,000 FDIC insured limit. ICS program is actually a liquid account program. So the only restriction on that is going to be that it does take like 1 day to get your funds out. With bond proceeds management, we know when the invoices are coming in, we know when they're going to be paid, so that 1 day lag for funding sources for liquidity is usually not an issue, but with a 1 day notice, we can pull any funds out of those ICS accounts that came in here. They will land in your WISC account, and then that can be dispersed to vendors or dispersed back to the district.
This works this time. Here we go. So kind of just a little bit more information. Josh already hit on some of these points. Our competitive bidding process, we work with 1,200 banks across the country, and on any given day that they are in the market, they will see your bid and they will bid on it competitively against those other banks. He did mention that we put it side by side with U.S. Treasuries and government agencies as well. We are able to sell those because we are securities licensed and broker. Based on current market data, and then we at PMA believe in the utmost transparency. So when you get a bid from us, you are going to see a number of things, and if you don't see it, you have the right to absolutely ask for it. Number one, we don't take discretion on any trades. So that means we're not going to make the trade for you. We're going to deliver all the terms to you, and then with that information, you can make the proper decision for the district. Number two, we're going to know your bidding institutions. So we're going to show you the bid that came back with the institution, the city that institution is located in, and your net rate right there with the calculation at the bottom, so you'll know your bottom line once again. We disclose the investment vehicles as well, so that means any type of CD that you're going to get, the U.S. Treasury, government agency, SDA or ICS, all those acronyms. We also have our own investment vehicles as well that we may be touching on a little bit. But then we're also going to provide for you the underlying documentation of the liquid rates that you may see. So I talked about WISC before. WISC, we operate 2 liquid pools, very similar to the state pool, WISC IS and WISC CMS. They are money market accounts. They are rated by S&P. They hold the highest rating from S&P that is allowed to be given by S&P. And then any investments, I skipped one here. Any investments that we don't select for the portfolio, you will see side by side, and you'll be able to compare what else we saw back in the bid and what you selected. So you guys will have complete transparency there. So local flavor, again, all in one statement. So when we work with local banks, the benefit of it, we work for very cheap with local banks, but the benefit is that it all comes back with one statement for you. So you're not going to have statements from several different institutions that you need to piece together for your reconciliations. And then any collateral assistance when we work with local banks, if they do like to take a little bit of a larger slice, we assist districts and local banks in seeking out collateral at a third party institution so that that money can be secure there. So strategic placement. So now is a very funny time with interest rates. The yield curve is inverted in some spots, which means that short-term rates are a little bit higher than what you may find a little bit further out in the yield curve, excuse me. And then a little bit further out you go, rates tend to go down and then back up once you hit maybe 5 years, out to 10, 20, and 30 years treasuries, kind of go back up. So it's a little bit of an odd time to be investing because you would expect higher rates the further out you go, but it's not really the case. So you really need to analyze the rates as they come back and figure out how you can best place, because sometimes it makes sense to pull dollars from a latter term up to a higher rate and then possibly reinvest it out at maturity.
I think if you look at that Exhibit A one more time, I think you can see there going out to, looks like March of 21. You can see there the top CDs came in there and averaged about 2.91%. If you look at those rates after that, they actually dropped. So that might be a conversation with the district that may, should we do this, should we do this investment here? We can pull that back a month and we can pick up an extra 30 basis points. So those are kind of the conversations that we have on here. But like you said, I think around like that 2-year mark, 2-year rates right now are higher than like some 3-year rates. And that's changing kind of daily. So I've been paying attention to the market. End of last year, they were expecting 3 rate hikes in 2019. At the last Fed meeting, that got pulled back to one expectation of 1 rate hike this year, and then possibly actually a pull back on rate in 2020. So it's a significant change from what people were thinking at the end of last year. And again, it's just, market expectations for where rates are going. Banks will usually price them in right away, but it's just kind of good to have your foot on that. We can definitely help, give advice and just what we're hearing and sort of based on market expectations for that.
2 more things. So we allow for spend down liquidity. You guys have a very different draw schedule where it doesn't look like you're going to meet even 10% of your spend downs until the 13th or 14th month of the project. So we'll touch on that a little bit later. But the last one, so all of the investments that we will place for you are going to be placed in the tax ID and name of the district. So there's no added level of risk because we vet these institutions so much and we look to figure out the health of these financial institutions that we're investing in. Just to put it in another institution that you guys wouldn't have necessarily access to, that's just another layer of complexity. But any investment through PMA will be placed in your name and tax identification.
And that's a broker relationship. So with our fee that's shown on interest indication there, that's kind of our broker fee for placing those deposits. So we simply contact institutions and then we place your money in your tax ID at those institutions, and then we just have that brokerage fee for that. That doesn't leave the tax ID number of the district.
So approved investments, everything that we sell at PMA is going to be state statute compliant, 660603, and everything will have gone through that prudent man analysis to make sure that it fits the bill of what we would consider a healthy institution. It'll also be district investment policy compliant. We have a large credit department that looks at these policies and looks at these institutions to make sure that everything that we put up is compliant with what you guys have approved. Local banks, again, so assessing current deposits, making sure that you are under any type of collateral or insurance that you can be. So these are the basis point fees. This is the proposed fee structure for what we would be working with. WISC actually dictates our fee structure for our clients. That board of commissioners, of business managers, they're the ones that dictate to us how we can be paid. This is about 10 basis points lower than what that fee schedule is. But there and again, at the bottom, you can see the total fee as you see it in that schedule of what would be taken. So D&E recently executed portfolio. So if you guys want to look at Exhibit E, you'll be able to see that portfolio. And Josh, if you want to take them through that portfolio.
Yep. So this is just a portfolio report here. This was the Sparta Area School District. And you can just see on here on this portfolio report, this could be something that could be shared at the board level. This is actually the last page of just your WISC bank statement. But you can see on here, it basically outlines every institution you're in, shows their FDIC number, shows you all the rate at those banks, and then also shows you all of those maturity dates. So as you're looking out here, as our liquidity is maybe getting a little low and we have a pile of invoices for $3 million to be paid next month, this is a nice resource to say, hey, look at our portfolio. Oh, we have $3 million of CDs maturing in 3 days that will fund our invoices. So this is just an actual executed portfolio that we did for Sparta. And if you look at the next, I think it's 2 pages later, it should be called the CD Quick Quote. This is what was actually provided to Sparta. So this would be what we would look at. This would be inclusive of your local banks. And this is what we go through to each maturity date with the business office. And this is what we would say is here, you know, out to July of 2020, you know, we've got this bank, 274. Maybe the local bank is at a 270. Okay, they're within 4 basis points. Would you like to go with the national bank at 274? Or you say, hey, you know what? It's a good story. Let's do it to the local bank. Might cost us 4 basis points. We can see exactly to the dollar what that interest number is. And you might want to draw a line in the sand somewhere and say, listen, if it's, you know, if we're within 5 basis points or 0.05%, let's go with the local. Otherwise, if it's going to cost, you know, it's $50,000 extra to go with the national bank, that might be somewhere where you say, hey, let's say thanks but no thanks, and let's work the local bank into a different area. So this is what we actually send to the district, and then we go right through here and just kind of go, you know, yes, no, local bank here, treasury here, pick out any institution here, but that's kind of the investment process that we work with. And again, that first page of that is just that executed portfolio for the district.
And that final page in that section, that is going to be where we are comparing U.S. Treasuries, government agencies, and agency discounts. So you'll see the net rates there as they were compared with the CDs that come back from our bidding platform.
There was 6 months ago, maybe, treasuries were beating CDs in a lot of terms, so they ended up in quite a few portfolios. Now treasuries, since the market expectations kind of dipped a little bit, those have dropped down, and now pretty much CD bank product has been beating treasuries for a few months now.
So, slide F, custody of investments. Again, district's investments are going to be in the district's name. There won't be added risk there. I guess these last 2 are more of disclosure. Certificates of deposit will be purchased in the name and tax identification number of the district, and will be fully compliant with Wisconsin state statutes and the district's investment policy. Government securities will be held in the name of the district by the WISC custodian U.S. Bank. So U.S. Bank, it just acts as a custodian for WISC. Access to proceeds. So we offer wire and ACH capabilities at no cost with bond proceeds or any one of our accounts. You can initiate that online, over the phone, or just shoot me an email and say, hey man, we need $500,000 wired to our electrician. And we can set that up for you. Any number of vendors can be paid too. So we can set up wiring instructions for anybody you would like. Some districts do it differently. Some districts like to run it through their AP and then ask us to forward it to them, which is great. Other districts choose to set up as many as 30 or more wired instructions and then give us the request whenever it needs to be.
In that process, we have a form, letterhead form. When we add new wire instructions, that needs to be signed off by someone from the business office. So someone you would name as an approved signer on the account or authorized person, they would need to sign this letterhead. They send that to us, and a few years ago, just a cybersecurity check, we now do callbacks on all of those too. So if we get an email from Kyle or Carl and say, hey, I'd like to add these wire instructions, get this wire out tomorrow, we need to call him back and talk to him in person on the phone to make sure it was him that set it up. You know, there's email phishing and other things that have kind of been around, especially more recently. So we do have a two-step process to add that. With referendum and proceed accounts, it's not really a big deal. You know, we know the vendors that we're going to have to pay. We can set those up in a timely fashion, and we can get those added in 2 business days. I think tops with that, as long as we get that call back and make sure that we talk to an authorized person in the district on the phone.
Yeah, good point. Fraud prevention has become one of our more important measures at EMA. So possibly more importantly, the amount of those requests is going to vary. We don't have any maximums or minimums. So if you guys need your money, you're going to get your money, and there's no extended wait for any larger sums of money. So your requests are going to be fulfilled each business day by 11 a.m. Simple as that. They're very easy to get your money out. So reporting services. This is quite possibly, and specifically to your case, one of the more important slides here. Josh, do you want to take through this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do a monthly arbitrage reporting. So that's something that we do in-house. We have in our credit department, Ed Barnacle was formerly at Chapman and Cutler, who provided arbitrage rebate services. So we've got sort of an in-house person that helps us with this arbitrage tracking, arbitrage reporting. One thing that our reporting does is on a monthly basis, each time you get your statement and you get our arbitrage report, we're looking at how much did you spend versus how much was projected. We're looking at the interest income that month, the interest income of the portfolio as a whole, and then that is something that we compare with your allowable arbitrage yield. So the arbitrage yield on the band is 2.86%. So any interest earnings over that 2.86% potentially is due back to the IRS if you do not meet a 2-year spend down. Based on the draw schedule, and I think that's already noted in the bond documents, you guys are not going to come anywhere near meeting that 2-year spend down on the proceeds. That being said, arbitrage is not a bad thing. Don't think that arbitrage is a bad thing. All it means is we earned all the way up to that borrowing rate that we borrowed the funds at. Anything we earned over it could be subject back, for a payment back to the IRS. IRS does have those exceptions and say, we don't care how much you borrow as long as you're spending 10% in 6 months, 45% in a year, 75% in 18 months, and then 100% in 2 years. Again, your schedule goes out past 2 years and it's a little delayed on the front end, so where you're likely not going to hit those. If you miss a 10% spend down, you're subject to rebate. If you meet the 10, meet the 45, meet the 75, and miss that last 100 one, you're subject to rebate. So this is something you need to kind of look at the whole time the bonds are outstanding. Do that arbitrage reporting. And again, districts aren't expected to kind of know what this is, but this is one thing that we do on a monthly basis. At the end of the project, and regarding the board reports too, I think we have, is it C? C will be an example of what that report looks like. You're looking at Exhibit C. So if you look down under that portfolio arbitrage status, that will kind of get you what your allowable arbitrage or interest earnings number is. And then that will be pegged right up against what your borrowing arbitrage yield is. And the difference or the spread in that is what you would owe back to the IRS. So it is possible too, maybe, at the end of the day, your portfolio will be earning under that 2.86%. No problem, you don't owe a payment, but you need to track that each, on a monthly basis and definitely keep a close eye on that, because when that switch is flipped and you do all that payment, you just want to make sure you're on top of it. It doesn't sneak up on you like, oh, all the proceeds are spent out. Whoops, I forgot we did earn arbitrage looking back and we owe the IRS, $100,000. Because then where do those proceeds come from? It can't come from referendum proceeds anymore. It's got to come out of operating. So just something to keep a close eye on. Again, this is something we do provide monthly. This might be a little cumbersome as a board report. We can pull any sort of piece of this report out if you would like to see it on a monthly basis. I think this orange and blue bars down here, your projected expenditures versus actuals, that can be a nice graphic to look at each month where you can say, hey, we're spending a lot faster than we had anticipated. How does our investment portfolio look? That's something we look at on a monthly basis. Or what happens more frequently is, hey, we're spending a lot slower than expected. We've got $1 million CD maturing for $1 million of expenses. We've only got bills for $200,000. What should we do with this extra $800,000? So then we'll actually look at flipping that, reinvesting that, getting some additional interest earnings over expected too.
You're not going to find a better monthly reporting expertise than you will the PMA. We've gained a lot of feedback from our clients over the years, and this is one of the most valuable pieces of information that they can get from us. This is specific to your situation, withholding, of course, any investments that are built in to add to a potential arbitrage rebate liability. So this is just a portion of that report. What you have is not this report specifically that we're seeing here, but this is meant to illustrate kind of the spend down requirements that you guys are going to have. So with your $20 million that came on January 10th, your first spend down is going to be on July 10th, and then again 6 months later on the next January 10th and so on. So these are the spend down requirements. This is what you are supposed to spend by July 10th, 2019, and based upon your projections, this is where you guys are going to be. So it is imperative that you have somebody at your back to track these numbers for you and report them to you on a regular basis, somebody that has the expertise to do so. Especially since you guys are issuing a ban. So a bond anticipation note, the RB yield on that is going to be a little bit lower than what you guys are actually even going to see on your actual notes. So that just makes it even more important to have somebody with the knowledge and the outlets to do this for you guys. So finally, one of the things that we provide after the bond issue is closed is a wrap-up binder. So it's going to be compliant to MSRB Rule G42, post-issuance compliance. What it is, I'm sorry, it's one here. Also, if you guys are close, which I do believe that at the end of this, I think you guys are going to need a calculation regardless because of the spend downs. That third-party arbitrage calculation that's going to be required is going to be paid for by PMA. So we will have to go out to a third party, get a legal opinion on your arbitrage situation, and then determine what the calculation will be, and you guys will see then and there. Of course, we can work on that throughout the process, but that is possibly where we will be ending up. And then again, also you guys will be able to provide discretion as to who we work with in terms of an arbitrage calculation. And then finally, a bond wrap-up binder. This has come in handy quite a bit. So we have one other district that we work with quite a bit, Monona Grove, on a number of bond issues, and they've been audited 4 times, I believe, in the last decade probably. And each time they took the binder that we provided to them, handed it to the auditors, and it answered all of the questions that they had. I don't believe that they ran into a single issue for any of those.
Usually no news is good news from the IRS. So.
Jared Rosien is the business manager down there. He'd love to talk to you guys about that process. So references. So these are all local to your region of the state. We work with people all over the state. But Green Bay, and then the day-to-day, so that is when the bonds that we're referencing here would have been issued. So Green Bay Public School District, Howard Swamico School District, Luxembourg Casco is probably the most recent. Southern Door also has another issue coming up here. Kewanee and the Unified School District of Depeer. All of these people would be able to speak for us, our arbitrage, reporting services, as well as our integrity and our bidding process. And all of their contact information, I believe, is in section E.
It's on E. We've got a few extras there, but yeah, there's contact information for Howard Swamico, Luxembourg Casco, or something that would
Lastly, other PMA services. So you guys, PMA is not about placement of investments. PMA's full breadth of services is dedicated to nonprofit organizations, namely counties, municipalities, and most of all school districts. We work with over 105 school districts in the state. We're about more than placing your investments. You're going to know, I think, that some of these rates may not be what you'll find from around the state, but the rates that you'll see in our interest indication, that's yield that comes with added confidence. So we're seeing a lot of risky yield out there. It's a very competitive time in the banking market. A lot of people are out there trying to grab cash. And we're cautioning a lot of our clients at the rates that they're seeing, because some of these institutions that are providing these higher rates wouldn't pass our credit analysis. And so we wouldn't necessarily recommend that you would place a certain dollar amount there or for a certain day period. Other services that we provide, we run cash flow analysis for our clients upon request. It is an added service to being a member of WISC. All of these come at no cost as being a member of WISC. So if you guys are looking at short-term borrowing, we run the analysis to figure out what it is that you guys are willing to borrow in any given year. Also, if you guys are flush with cash at any point in the year, we can run the cash flow analysis and figure out an appropriate investment plan for the district, so that maybe you guys can benefit a little bit from those numbers.
We even do if boards are looking at spending fund balance in a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you want to say, hey, what's this going to do to our operating cash? We can run any number of scenarios, cash flow, scenario 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can do a nice 2-year lookout as to what your operating cash would, cash balances would look like.
Lost my train of thought. Cash flow analysis. The other thing we have, like I said, I mentioned before, we haven't talked about it a whole lot. We have those 2 liquid pools. We operate those for a lot of districts in terms of with debt service, Fund 46, which is your capital improvements, and Fund 73, which is going to be your OPEB dollars. We have one more pool that a lot of districts will utilize for that, and that's our WISC LTD. It looks to capture excess yield in the market by having a floating NAV, but it still stays actually compliant, and I believe the last, what was the last net market yield on that was 278, and it's quarterly liquidity, so on a quarterly basis, we will reach out to those specific districts and say, hey, are you guys going to be needing any funds this quarter? If not, we'll go forward this quarter. Has been very beneficial to a lot of districts lately. Banking services, some people run their banking services through us with check writing capabilities. And then again, going back to why we were founded in the first place as our credit analysis, just to make sure that your dollars are as safe as they possibly can. Any questions?
Could have got a lot worse with arbitrage if we started talking about the refunding balance, but I'm going to save that for a later conversation. But yeah, if any follow-up questions come up or want any clarification, there's a lot more information provided in here specific to those questions. We want to kind of give you a rough overview on there. If you need any more information or any more references or anything like that, we'd be happy to provide that.
Thank you. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have another presentation on bond fund investment from American Deposit Management Corporation. John Majors is here, and I'm not sure who his partner is. They may need a minute to set up for technology.
How are you? Good to see
So Karen, I'm always on the lookout for the motion S.
Yeah.
No motion S on the first one, and this one has one motion S and one without motion S. On the hat. Oh, that. Okay.
Hi, how are you? See you. John.
Yeah, Cindy.
We kind of met.
Yeah.
See?
How you doing?
Ken, nice to meet you. Adam. Adam. John. Hi, Melissa. Yeah. Good to meet all of you. Thanks for taking the time. Where we go?
Okay, you ready? Hi everyone, I'm John, this is Jake, we're with American Deposit Management. We are here to talk about bond proceeds, all the details. Matt and Josh did a great job going through a lot of the things to think about. We are going to cover a little bit about ADM, if you've never heard about us, where we came from, why we're here, your investment options and what we can do for the district, and our other services that we provide. Here's all of you. Thanks for coming. Trusted stewards of the district's future. We know that this is a really big choice for you all to make, not just who to work with now, but obviously this whole process that you all have been working for years on to get the vote done, to figure out what projects you're going to do, what's most important for the future, and do what's best for your constituents. A little bit about ADM. We are in our 10th year now. So we've been working with school districts and municipalities, among other different types of clients for a decade. We have over 100 years of combined banking experience between our top management. So a lot of that wisdom to draw on, billions of dollars in funds managed. We also provide vendor payments, so we've done thousands and thousands of those over the course of the years, not just for districts in bond proceeds management situation, but other clients as well. And hundreds of district work hours saved, which I know for Kyle and Carl is a big positive. So we provide services that you could figure out how to do by yourself, but it would take a long time and it wouldn't be as effective. So what we're trying to do is just provide a little bit of expertise and, of course, time saving. They have full-time jobs, they have the project to manage, all the other choices and decisions that go into that. And so we just want to be a resource for them and for you all in making this big choice for not just the district now, but everybody to come down the line for the next 20, 30, 40 years. We really believe that our smaller size and nimble attitude to the market gives us an advantage. We're able to adjust quickly. We really work hard to provide our clients the best rates, the best services possible, because we aren't the biggest shop on the street. We don't have 50 years or 100 years of experience like some folks, but we know what we're doing. We've been around the block. We've done dozens and dozens of these same type of projects. And I think most importantly, worked through a lot of issues, not just our internal issues, but when things come up, because it's great to imagine that your project will run perfectly smoothly and exactly to plan. If anybody's done a construction project at home, you probably realize that that's not really realistic. So I think our opinion is that it's really when stuff goes wrong and there's issues, that's when our services can really provide that extra level of value to save everybody time, effort, money. We also work outside of the public sector, but we cover school districts. We work with the County of Door and Jay, municipalities, water sewer districts, local government investment pools outside of the state of Wisconsin, but also foundations, nonprofits, trusts, corporations. We have a really robust and diverse network of clients. It's a pretty interesting story how our company actually got founded. We do, you can see class action and complex litigation. The founders of our company, who I'll talk about in a few minutes, they owned a bank prior to starting ADM. And they were the escrow agent on a $30 million class action settlement. Has anyone seen the Deadliest Catch, that old reality show? 1, 2? Yeah, so a bunch of those guys that went out fishing, they died in one form or fashion, and several of the wives and girlfriends got together and sued the company. So we were the escrow agent, and it was $30 million, had to be fully FDIC insured. The court required that. So this was when the FDIC limit was $100,000. If you do the math, it's 300 different banks to have that full dollar amount be FDIC insured. So that was the genesis of our bank network as it is today, which is about 600 strong. All across the country, we have hundreds of banks here just in the state of Wisconsin. And so we have a differing perspective. We work in the corporate world, we work in class action settlements, which are their own little ecosystems. But everybody has, as you all know, the top 3 concerns when you have large deposits like this is safety, liquidity, and return. So safety is obviously number 1. We contract with 2 outside firms to provide independent reporting on all of our banks to vet them and be sure that they are sound and stable when we're putting clients' money into accounts there. And so you also need liquidity. That is a function of the conversations that we've had with Carl and Kyle and continuing conversations with your construction managers and other vendors to make sure that we know when you are going to need your money. And of course, return. Return is obviously important, and as you probably are aware from listening to PMA's presentation, it's a crazy time in the banking world right now, but that is actually a good thing for all of you. There's a lot of opportunity, and you don't have to take crazy risks. That's not what you're allowed to do. The state statutes are very strict on where you can put your money, but with rates going up, there's a lot of opportunity to make extra on those bond proceeds as they sit for quite a while, months and months and months.
The reason you guys brought up why we don't care about those other clients you have, the reason we partner with a lot of those clients is if you have bond proceeds coming in and out, the bank, we can go out and get bids from banks, but banks don't, they kind of call that hot money, comes in and comes out, so it's very hard for banks to loan on bond proceeds because banks like to see sticky money that they know is going to stick around, and they can actually go out and make, good loan decisions on. So we really utilize a lot of that other money to help stabilize the bond proceeds that we get in from school districts. And what that means to you guys is the banks are willing to pay a bigger premium than on all the funds that they're holding, and then we can pass that back onto the district.
And we'll talk a little bit more about the program and the investment options as we go forward here. So just a little bit more about us. These are our founders, Robert and Kelly. As you can see, they have many qualifications, but have been in the banking industry for over 2 decades each. They both owned a bank together and now have separated ADM from the previous bank as a standalone entity for over 10 years. So a lot of experience, again, to draw from. This is our team that works exclusively with our municipal clients. So Jake and myself, our Director of Client Services, Jessica, and Jennifer, who leads our financial institutions team that manages all of our bank relationships, which we will get into. Some of our sample clients, bigger deals that we've done, Germantown, Belleville, Plymouth, Sheboygan Falls, in the vicinity. And we also work outside of the state. City of Minneapolis is a client of ours, 26 other states that we are in. And of course, we're registered with the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, so we are all licensed and registered to be able to give you all advice in this capacity. We have 3 locations now. Corporate office, we're born and bred in Wisconsin. We have about 30 employees and some satellite offices down in Texas and Arizona, where we have some larger clients. So why are you all here? Trying to figure this out. Anybody's head spinning yet? You know what to do? Yeah. We try to make this as simple as possible, so I'll get into exactly what we do as far as investing, but we handle making sure that we get that safety liquidity return. Also, vendor payments, and of course, arbitrage rebate, as noted before. So we have a network, as I said, about 600 banks all over the country, but we do work with many, many local institutions. I know that you guys currently are with Nicolet, Associated, so we have existing relationships with those banks. We have already been in contact with them in order to place some of your funds, but we'll do the same thing. We always give you the information, particularly Carl and Kyle. Make sure that you know the difference specifically between what can Nicolet offer and what might we be able to offer from a different bank in our network from somewhere else in the country. And a lot of our clients would be willing to have some of that money deployed locally if the rate was pretty close. And oftentimes we do that. As an example, we just worked with Plymouth, a little bit south of here, and they asked us to keep about 10% of their proceeds with the local bank. They've had a 30-year relationship. They're literally right across the street. So we negotiated on the district's behalf and got them a better rate than what they were earning. We're able to keep those funds with the local institution, place the rest of the funds outside in our network where they were able to get the best rate. So this is what we do. Our flagship product, if you'll want to think of it that way, our #1 program is the American Money Market Account. So this is our liquid program. Differs from WISC in that we do not invest in securities. So there's no market fluctuations. This is entirely through bank accounts. Savings accounts and money market accounts through our network of banks all over the country, which means that $1 in is always $1 out. There is no fluctuation in value day to day. If you put in $1 million today, your statement will always say $1 million until you add the interest. And if you take it out, it's always going to be $1 million. We have unlimited deposit protection. So we use FDIC and state statute collateral. So we are able to protect all of your funds, of course, as the #1 priority, and we follow the state statutes to make that happen. Next day liquidity, competitive return. We use sub-accounts to, especially in bond proceeds, there's multiple issues, multiple questions. You guys didn't have that, but there's a lot of flexibility as far as that goes. Everything is available through a secure online portal, electronic statements and collateral statements, and historical data is also available there as well. Auditor and board friendly. We also provide all of that data for the life of your project and after, and consolidate all of that into a binder for you to keep for posterity. We have managed over $3.8 billion in over 780 financial institutions in the last 10 years. Operating funds, bond proceeds, and other short-term needs. So this is the same service that we provide for other clients, whether they are public, private, nonprofit. We also will use certificates of deposit. So this is our investment vehicle. We, again, do not invest in securities, so there is no market fluctuation. If you invest in treasuries or agencies and rates change in the market, you have the potential to have those values go down. And if you have to liquidate those securities early, have the potential to lose principal. So all of our certificates are not marketable. So again, $1 in is always $1 out. But we do the same process as Jake alluded to with our negotiations with our bank partners on liquid funds and certificates of deposit. We have ongoing negotiations. We have a whole team of people that's all that they do is deal with our bank network. And we're constantly going out to competitive bid, and especially in these situations where we have specific dollar amounts for specific maturities, for specific liabilities and bills that you're expecting in the future. Again, unlimited deposit protection, one way or the other, FDIC insurance or collateral, but of course, all within the limits of the state statutes, and one consolidated statement with the liquid account. So if you have one bank or 500 banks, everything is all together in one place, and there is in your packet a sample statement showing that. So that's the investment portion. And then on the services side, I'm sure you all are very excited about this, but I think a lot of this is Carl and Kyle saving time on their end. We will provide vendor payment services, and we will establish a protocol to make sure that there aren't payments going where they shouldn't. Having a second set of eyes on everything that comes through, making sure there's no double payments. So a lot of our districts will run their invoices through the business office. Carl might get an invoice, he approves it, sends it to us, and then we can make that payment on behalf of the district and report back every day or every week or every month, whatever frequency we need to, so that those payments are all tracked and we have the transaction history and all of that available for auditing purposes. So it does a couple things. Saves time. There are no checks written. We send that money directly to vendors when they need it. We have increased financial control. Like I said, there's a second set of eyes on everything, so we're double checking, making sure there's no double payments or bills that are incorrect. Maximize earnings. This one is something I think a lot of people don't think about. If you move money from your investment account to your checking account where you're not earning anything, and it sits for a few days, and then you write a check and the vendor doesn't cash it right away, now you've lost potentially 3, 4, 5 days of interest on a $1 million check. Those little things can add up. So that's a big part of what we do. And of course, reporting, the number one thing for everybody in this room, I would assume, is knowing where the money is going, where it's been, and then being able to track that through the course of the project. And arbitrage rebate, again, there's a sample in your packet of the report that we provide. We do monthly, quarterly, year-end statements. We contract with a third party for all of that. We've been working with Bingham Arbitrage Rebate Services out of Virginia for essentially the whole life of our company. They are complete and total experts. They've done over $60 billion worth of bond deals, tracked and calculated.
Just to add on this, I mean, we could have chosen to do arbitrage rebate reporting internally, but we're investment experts, we're banking experts. We found the best arbitrage firm in the nation, Kim White, who owns Bingham. She's class act. She's recognized by the National GFOA organization as like their go-to arbitrage rebate compliance expert. So it costs our firm, and we cover the costs for the district, so it definitely costs ADM more money. We could have done it in-house and saved some extra money for our firm. So we felt like it was important to partner with the firm that's best at doing that service in the nation. So that's kind of how we wound up using that, using Bingham as a third party.
So that's not any additional cost to us, that's
No.
all part of the
Exactly.
services that you provide.
Yep.
Correct. So they currently are working with over 20 of our clients, over $200 million, and that is all included in our bond proceeds management. Audit support, of course, going forward. All of your historical information is available. We provide monthly statements. Everything is uploaded to our portal, easily accessible. Online withdrawal requests, so the money is always available next day, settles beginning of business the next day in your operating account. As I mentioned, record retention and safekeeping binder. We provide a copy to the district. We also keep copies of everything, so we have that just in case something happens. You guys move or somebody moves offices and binder disappears, we always have that available. We do also provide merchant services and bank RFP consulting. I know one thing that you're all probably wondering about is the fees, right? So on the, in the proposal, we go to, yes, correct.
About middle of the way through, the one that looks like this.
So our fee is split out in two separate ways. On the liquid accounts, it is built into the delivered rate that you get. So just like the bank pays you on this, and they take a spread, they're loaning money out at 5%, they pay you 2%, and they take that spread as their operating profits. We do the same thing. We don't make 3%, but if we're earning 3% for the district, then we have somewhere 310, 320, and so we're taking that spread off the top. But that is all dependent on our bank relationship. So some of our banks change their rates at the beginning of the month or the middle of the month if there's a rate change, daily, and so depending on where those end up, we're looking at a delivered rate to you, to the district, and then our fee can vary from there. And on CDs, there's a placement fee, so it's up to 20 basis points, 0.2%, and again, that is variable depending on the market. In certain situations, we need to, we have a fiduciary responsibility to put you in the best position possible. So if, for instance, I think Josh mentioned it earlier, if treasuries are paying more than CDs at a particular point in time, but we need to make that particular term work, then we can discount our fees to make that happen. So there's flexibility in order to get you into the best position possible.
I also think it's important to know, we decided at the inception of our firm not to take payments. If you hear terms like brokerage fees or bank placement fees, we decided, as owning a bank and working in the banking world, that's kind of common. Banks will cut people fees to place deposits there. But we really want to have a neutral standpoint. When we look at our bank landscape, we want to say, hey, we're going to place funds that are based on getting our client the best rate, not on the type of fee that the bank's paying us. So if one bank's paying us 2% and one's paying 1%, it might entice us to place more funds at the bank paying 2% or a higher brokerage fee. So our stance is we don't get paid from banks. We get all of our revenue through the CD placement fee and through the spread on our liquid account. So kind of keeps us, neutral when it comes to the banking world and helps us navigate through that on our clients' best behalf.
So without taking those fees, can you possibly negotiate a higher rate than it, say at some point, with those banks by not taking fees? Or are they going to still kind of keep their rate?
We continually negotiate ongoing with our banks. There's no set rule that says once you negotiate a rate, you have to leave it. Sometimes banks will call us and say, hey, if you provide us with more funds, we'll give you a higher rate, or things of typical negotiations. So
Right.
we're constantly doing that, so we can continue to raise the rates that John's quoted you guys, as you can see, are kind of steady. If the Fed does raise rates, we don't want to count on that this year. So if they do raise rates, then a lot of our rates at the banks, we will negotiate up higher and pass that on to our clients. So does that answer your question?
And that's a big part of our financial institutions team that manages those bank relationships. It's not just a computerized system where they just put a number in and then they go from there. We have that, but then we also have a lot of personal relationships that we literally do manually. Pick up the phone and say, you sent this in, we have X, Y, and Z, can you do any better? And we have that happen on a regular basis, which is in these types of situations where we have these large dollar amounts, it's very similar to walking in to Nicolay National Bank and saying, what's your rate going to be in 2 months? They might give you an idea, but can you really hold them to it? So we pride ourselves on being able to get great rates, but then when the rubber really meets the road, and we can go back and negotiate even further. It's not just set it and forget it and we're done. So we really work continuously to make sure that the district is earning as much as possible, which means then we earn as much as possible because we get a portion of that. And if we don't, then there's no reason for us to exist.
John, your example here, this is with the $5 million coming in at a later date, correct?
Correct.
So what's the interest on the $20 million alone?
The income?
What would be the interest income for the $20 million, correct, without $5 million coming in?
I don't know off the top of my head. We can calculate that for you if you.
Apples to apples.
That's what I'm looking for, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So your fee, is it $7,000 or $70,000? What would your experience be? I know you can't.
No, actually I can. So this number, 45,180, that is our maximum fee.
Okay.
So that's assuming we take the maximum 20 basis
And it-
points on the entire dollar.
That's the maximum, and it could vary down depending
Yeah.
on those things you explained.
Correct. So as far as, apples to apples, that's why we put that in there. We love when, it makes sense to fit something in, and if we can have you pay less, great, but that, you won't pay any more than that.
And that's on both the 20 million and the 5 million total.
Correct.
And when would you be able to get Kyle that breakdown with 5 million?
In the morning, first thing. not a problem. Any other questions?
Kyle, Carl?
Yeah, I have a question for PMA. Your fee of $45,228.24, that's for the 20 million, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the 5.1 later, there'd be an additional fee on for that understandably,
Yep.
correct? Okay, but you're saying with 5.1 additional, that's, yours is 45,180, no more, even with the 5.1 million coming in a year from now?
Correct.
Okay.
Would it be appropriate for us to, we want to see one from American Deposit Management that's just the 20? And then if we could get one from PMA where it's the 20 and the 5, so that way we have both versions, so we can compare. I think that might not be a bad idea.
That'd be great.
Would that be something you'd be able to do as well?
Yeah, we can send it in line as well.
Because of timeliness, we want this money invested sooner than later.
Right.
So when we get to that agenda item, I think we're gonna now ask for a recommendation or a proposal that you, like Carl and I, have the flexibility in the morning to make that decision after we get that information in. Unless you want to have a special board meeting on Monday.
No, there's a basketball game on Monday.
Right after the fifth quarters are done playing. Okay, but that's, because that's the direction we'll have to go if we want to have that and
Because we still have $20 million sitting in the bank right now that it's,
Yeah, we gotta.
most of it is not secured, you know?
Yeah, it's secured, right?
Well, it's.
I don't know.
No,
That's
because
silly.
some of it is collateral, some is FDIC, but a portion of that the bank can't handle is not secure. So,
it's a large amount of different
Sooner the
way.
better.
yeah. It's very
Right, so
much
that's why we need the
secured.
flexibility for tomorrow or Monday night, right? Yeah.
Any other questions for these gentlemen? Thank you also for coming. We appreciate it. Good presentation.
Drive safe.
It was a little slick out there. Yeah.
Been spoiled this summer.
All right. Again, thank you for coming, and now we have Aaron from CISA 7. I don't even know how to say your last name, I'm sorry.
Close enough. Melchett.
No.
They're getting pounded with information. Don't worry, mine's a little bit lighter than $25 million. And I think the workload for you folks is a little bit different on this one as well here, so. Good to see you folks again. September? A couple weeks back we met, but at the board meeting.
I think it was July.
It was in the library, yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
went
that's
back
where,
to the meeting, I think it was
where I went
July.
first, and I didn't see anyone in there, I'm like,
You went down first?
yeah. Well, yeah, because I hadn't finished the board meeting. So tonight is an update. Kyle asked me to come in and give an update on where we're at. I know he came in a couple weeks back and we met to kind of talk about next steps. And we knew going into the process, referendum was obviously first in the forefront. And we were going to come back around to this, knowing we were going to come back around to this after the referendum went through, to game plan and see where we're at. Very favorable results. You guys are having great presentations. Obviously, you guys did great work with your referendum and pushing that along. So in talking with Kyle and some folks and continuing to press on with the strategic planning stuff here. So what I have for you tonight is a brief update of where we've been, where we're at, where we're going type of thing. So as you go to the second page here, just a quick review of the process that we're going to be taking on here to the payment model that will be facilitating for the district. 3 phases. Phase 1 is we're in the middle and just about to conclude that phase 1 portion of the building capacity, communicating out, building the participation, and that data collection. So we're just about to wrap that up and get into phase 2, which is actually designing the plan. So the first part will facilitate through the planning process, the action plan process, and then having an actionable product. That's a majority of that phase 2. That'll take a good deal of our time. And phase 3 is putting the rubber to the road, so to speak, and creating a new culture and putting those focus your resources into that new plan. So we're just about to end phase 1, just about to enter phase 2. As you flip over the next slide here, I know you guys have placed some recent effort in selecting that team. Very important work, probably some challenging work as you guys are considering who are your best teammates to have on this team. We chatted a little bit earlier, we're going to hit over to the other team that's important to the process too, the action planning team. But, and they both have their purposes, they both serve their purposes. That strategic planning team, again, this group of 25 composed of school district employees, we got a couple of students we were considering, parents, local community members, businesses, board members, so on and so forth. They're doing a lot of the bulk of the planning behind this thing. The work that they're going to conclude is on the flip side to that. At the end, just in review, that team is going to be coming up with our beliefs, the mission, the objectives of the district, the strategies and the action plans that are going to drive change in the district that you folks are looking to see, all within the parameters that we set as a team as well. So it's going to take a deep dive into take a look at where the district is right now, ask a lot of questions, reflective questions, and get some feedback of where do you want to go. And then we're going to determine how we're going to get there. And that's essentially the process that we'll walk through during that first, we call it the first strategic planning session that we'll facilitate here. So that 25-member team is going to drive through this work here. If you flip over to the next page, it talks about the overview of the workflow. Again, this is just a quick review to try to level the playing field of where I understand I'm going to take us, and hopefully you guys get a good idea and a concept of where we're going to go. So the planning team designs an initial plan, and that's the work we're about to enter here as we get into phase 2. After that strategic planning team builds the plans, we're going to come up with a number of strategies that need action plans behind them. We're going to train up some action team leaders and form the action teams right behind that point. We're going to hand off the plan over to those folks. And they're going to devise the plans that are actually going to put the rubber to the road and make the strategic plan come to life. Those strategic plan members for the action team are likely folks that have some stake in the game. Maybe they're some teacher leaders, maybe the administrators are going to be a part of those actions, those action planning teams. Certainly community members will still be on that because they're on, administration will still be on the team because you guys will all have good insight to those teams. So the action planning team is going to develop the action plans, and that'll be over a course of a few months. And that work isn't as rigorous up front as the planning team's meetings will be. Planning team meeting, as you'll see in a little bit, we're going to run through a 3-day, pretty much 8 to 5 sessions each of those 3 days to devise our work. Action team members will have a little bit more flexibilities. They might have some ability to do some collaboration using technology as they do some research and share some ideas and meet a little bit more frequently throughout those few months, shorter durations of time. So each group has some important work, a little bit different work as it's kind of made up from that. After the action teams have their plans made up, it goes back to presentations to the original strategic planning team. And the idea behind that is to ensure the direction of those action plans were the intent of the strategic planning team. So does it fit the mission that we established? Does it fit the objectives that we established? Is it staying within the parameters that we established? Is it fitting all of those needs that we came up with as a team? Those important guiding documents. After the strategic planning team reviews those plans again and says, yep, hey, we're good to go, it fits with all of our things, comes to the board for the formal approval. Along those same lines, it's a fine line because the board's going to ask some important questions about funding, resources, how we're going to make that happen. We're going to walk through the process of working with the front office and aligning those resources. What comes in, maybe what needs to go away. We call that strategic abandonment. We talked about that when I was here back in September. Finding those initiatives that maybe you have intact right now that because of the plan are going to get set off to the side for a little bit, not completely abandoned, but maybe just not upfront important, then we're going to devote the resources to. So the plan will help identify those items as well. So it's that fine balance because the board's going to need those funding numbers to approve the plan and devise the rollout, what plans are coming in first. And then we implement. So in as brief, short-winded as I could be, that is the process we're going to drive through over the next several months. Talked a little bit about that action plan team. If you do turn the page here, it talks about what that team is going to look like. Again, we're looking at small, manageable teams, and the numbers are just ballpark. So I'm envisioning somewhere with your district, we'll have 5-member teams, maybe 7, maybe 9, depending on the action item itself. And again, it's based on the impact of the objectives. So those whose work are going to be impacted by this plan are going to be involved in this team. They're the boots on the ground. They're going to be able to give you the feedback of what's manageable, where are we at now, how are we going to make this work type of thing as well. And how many action teams we have is going to depend on how many strategies we have and how many actions that are going to be driving those different strategies. Does all that make sense so far? On the flip side here, this is literally just a cross-cut of the original proposal I shared with you folks in the different phases here, just kind of a timeline. So as I can continue to check in with you folks, I'll kind of give you the where are we type action with this. So you can kind of see the couple pieces that we've done already. We're in the middle of step 3 and 4 right now, collecting those district vital signs. I worked with Gina a little bit earlier this week. I'm going to connect with her again next week after to make sure we get the vital signs all set together. And again, that was just a snapshot of the district, where we've been over the last 3 to 5 years. And that whole intent of that is to level the playing field for those folks that are outside the district coming in to help with this work. So that you get a good idea on where your enrollment's been, where's funding been, where's student achievement been. So like I said, it kind of levels that playing field a little bit. And I'll keep you guys updated along the way as far as progress and what steps we're on. On the last page that I have on the very back of the document is the dates that we currently have set for our actions. On January 31st, we're going to roll out our strategic plan team orientation, about a 2-hour session. And the whole idea is to chunk out that first 2-hour orientation of get to know you, here's your teammates, here's what we're all about, here's the grand overview of the plan. I'm going to run them through a very similar presentation I shared with you guys at our very first meeting and kind of walk them through the whole why are we doing this, what's the importance of this, what is the whole outcome going to look like at the end of it. So we'll do about a 2-hour session that first evening to get them up to speed. That's going to allow us, when we hit the ground on February 8th for our first planning session meeting, we'll be able to dive right in and get after it. Okay, so we have currently planned Friday, February 8th and all day 8 to 5. The following day, Saturday, 8 to 5, and then coming back a week later on Saturday the 16th from 8 to 5. Big commitment, and we knew that going in when we're looking for those 3 days to be chunked together. We found as a team, if we did Friday, Saturday is probably a more reasonable ask than if we try to do 3 weekdays, taking staff out of classrooms, taking people off of work. We felt this was a good mix. I'm more than comfortable with the dates that we have. It's not too far apart. You don't ever want to get too far apart when you're working through like this and losing momentum. So I think we'll be at a good layout that way. Once we get through those first planning sessions, we do not have dates set yet. But as we hit February and March to identify our action team leaders and to build those action teams. In March, I will lead the action team leader kickoff. I'll provide a brief training for those folks as to how to help manage their teams, the resources, and I always call it the playbook. Kyle's got his playbooks. I'll give the action team leaders their playbooks to help drive their meetings and drive their teams as well. March through June, the action teams will begin their work and conclude their work as we hit around June. And we'll probably reconvene again back as a group in September to line up those other pieces as we move forward with that. Any questions as to just a few reminders where we're heading, where we've been, where we're at right now, and some upcoming dates. Any questions on the process that we're driving through right now?
I have a question. When you talked about the action teams,
Yeah.
and it's going to be most likely staffed and based on goals and stuff, when you say, is it going to be like by pupil services or elementary, how are those teams compiled?
It's really been kind of the work. So let me think of an example. Let's say one of your strategies that is coming out of our action plans. Let's say one of these strategies down here that we come up with is incorporating technology more fluently throughout the district. Okay. So maybe one of those action plan or one of those action teams is going to involve maybe some of your tech folks, but also some curriculum folks, so you can figure out ideas on how to incorporate more technology in the classroom. How do you get that in the student hands what needs to happen before students get in their hands, after they get in their hands, and what do we want it to even look like? Just giving advice to a student isn't going to make it any better of an experience. How are we going to make sure it's a positive experience? So just a quick example of how it's not going to be just a tech department thing or just a curriculum instruction thing. It might be people from both sides to come together to figure out what does it look like to get technology in our students' hands. So just a brief example off the top of my head how those teams are going to come together that way.
Aaron, a couple questions. Have you worked with districts our size, and then what's the capacity for the number of action steps that you might take or
Yeah.
suggest for a district or size?
Yeah, so for a district your size, I think we're right on the button here with the action teams around 5 or so. And again, it completely depends on the strategies. I'm gonna highly suggest we don't get strategies anything more than 5. If we get more than 5 strategies, we're probably out further than 3 years, which I'm gonna lose a little comfort in maintaining the momentum on making those things happen within a timeline, within a budget that we're kind of identifying with that. If we come through here and we end up with some objectives that leads down to between 3 and 5 strategies, I think we're sitting very, very good. So many of our strategies, unless they get really complex for some reason and I let that go through, I imagine we will get away with an action team if we have to have 2 on a particular strategy because of some intricacies. That's kind of what I foresee happening with that. It would be my recommendation not to get too much deeper than that and bite off more than we can chew. As you mentioned, district of size, if you get a larger district, more resources, more people, there's more support for something like that, they can very likely get action 12, 15 action teams that are managing their strategies.
So that's part of the conversation.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. And I'll help facilitate and guide that to make sure we're not biting off more than we can chew during those conversations. And I think it becomes pretty apparent as people identify what the main objectives are for the district, that flesh out through that process and the reflections that we do and taking a look at where we're at and where we want to go. Great questions, though.
Anyone else have questions, Karen? No, anything for you?
No, that's,
Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for
Appreciate
having
it.
me out.
Look forward to starting the process.
Yeah, I look forward to getting in it with you guys, and whenever you folks need updates, just let you know and you come back.
Good,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks.
All right. That was good that all happened in the beginning of the meeting. That was a lot of information. Okay, we will move to the consent agenda. Are there any items someone wishes to have removed from the consent agenda? If not, the consent agenda is approved by consent, including the $5,000 donation to the building project from Steve Wood Orchard. We will move to old business then, with the second reading of policy 313, run reduction in staff. I don't remember when we had the first reading of this, probably just last meeting. Is there a motion to approve that second reading?
I'll move to approve policy 3131, reduction in staff.
Second. Questions or comments?
Piece of cake out there.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
It took me longer to type up all that stuff
Yeah.
than what it took you guys to do it.
Well, we can talk longer if you want us to. Okay, then we have some discussion and need to take action on the bond fund investment. Mr. Lutke.
well, after hearing the 2 presentations tonight, I think in the morning, Carl and I need to get the information from both companies so we compare them equally. And now that I have more references to call, I'd like to call a couple of folks I know on this list to double check with them. And I would like Carl and I and Liberty to make that decision. The folks I've talked to so far across the state, they've been 6 one, half dozen the other. They're both reputable companies. What I basically been told is you can't go wrong with either one, and you gotta have a comfort level with them at one point. But I'm interested in the fee structure and the net, yeah. And as they both talked about investing locally, in the second presentation said they allotted 10% at Plymouth for a local bank. I think we make sure that whichever company we go with, they make sure it's available to the local, but we have to, for the taxpayer's sake, make sure it's a competitive rate. I don't think we can designate a certain percentage towards the local.
I think that was, the school wanted that. wasn't it?
Right, yeah, and I don't see us in the same vein in that, but we want them to have the
We wouldn't
opportunity.
require that.
Right, my recommendation is that we have them have the opportunity, and then their rate has
Close, right.
gotta be really close, right, yeah. I don't see any reason to not get the most for our investment.
Did any board members have strong feelings, thoughts one way or the other? If not, would someone like to make a motion to give the superintendent authority to make a decision on which bond investment fund to go with?
I would move to approve that we give the superintendent the authority to gather the additional information for the bond fund investment and make the decision in the best interest of the district.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Questions or comments?
I would just say it's gotta be the two of you comfort level. I mean, Carl's really gonna be working closely with making these phone calls, and we need to swipe money and sweep money and such, so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, Carl's vital.
I mean, they both have great references, so.
Okay.
I mean, I talked to Southern Door and Kiwanee last week, who worked with PMA. And again, they said, you're not gonna go wrong. I haven't talked to Kim about PMA or ADM because, at Kiwanee, because I didn't know who I hadn't met them yet. But I had met PMA at Federal Funding Conference last year first. They came up to me, said, I don't know if they overheard a conversation or whatever. So I've known Josh for about a year, or Matt for about a year. I just met John the first time, and I got a more warm and fuzzy with John just by meeting with him for an hour than I have in all the time we've been working with Matt. So, but again, it goes by the information that we get.
I guess if you get apples to apples, you can go with warm and fuzzy.
Well, but I mean,
Well, I mean, if all things,
All things are
If
equal,
all things are equal.
not if you have apples to apples, but if all things are equal,
if all
then.
things are equal,
You're the ones that have to work with them regularly.
Right, well, we will.
right,
Yeah.
and I don't mind working with either one. I mean, but I just got a little better feeling with the second guy, but neither one of them are bad, so.
Okay.
We're in good shape.
Yeah.
okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We then have the annual anticipated open enrollment availability report.
As you're looking at that report, I'd like to share some information that Sue sent me. And thanks, Sue, for getting this out.
And when it comes to this, Carl will read the motion as it should be, and then we'll just take I so move on that because it's kind of lengthy.
So once we set the open enrollment space limits for the remainder of this year, we do not add students at that point once they're set, and then it has to be during the window of opportunity from there. And after the window of opportunity, you can't until the third Friday in September again. So
The rules just keep changing.
If we don't have room.
if we don't have,
Yeah.
if there's room, it's fine.
It's not a problem.
Right, exactly.
Okay, Carl, would you like to read what the motion should be?
Okay. Okay. Motion is to approve the 2019-2020 pupil class size limits and special education caseload service score limits as follows. 4K, 40 students, kindergarten, 40 students, first grade 40, second grade 40, third 40, fourth 40, fifth 40, sixth 50, seventh 50, eighth 50, ninth 60, 10th 60, 11th 60, 12th 60. Early childhood to grade 3, 19 service points. Multi-categorical 3rd through 5th, 26 service points. Multi-categorical 6th through 8th, 26 service points. Multi-categorical 9th through 12th, 26 service points. And speech and language score, 35 service points. DPI requires us to have this spelled out in the motion.
So can I hear someone give us an I so move? The motion is read by Carl.
I so move.
Second. Okay. Questions, comments, discussion?
So what he read is different than what we have on here.
Correct.
What you have on that sheet is for the regular grades. What the Melissa has additional information for the special ed.
Right, but you said,
Capacity.
you know, fourth you said 40, you said 40 for fifth.
And it's
So the
60.
difference is 60 and 48.
Yeah, wouldn't fourth and, wouldn't?
No, those,
My son's in that fourth grade class, that's a big class, they're gonna be fifth graders next year, so should that be 60?
That should be 60 on that one.
But our
Fourth
capacity
grade.
is 40.
Fourth grade next year will be 2 sections, so it should be 40. And fifth grade should be capacity of 60. Right, because there's 3 sections of fifth grade next year.
Okay.
Yeah,
so 60.
because it's currently, yeah, that's a current number on the fifth grade.
Okay, so fifth grade would be 60,
Fourth grade would be 40.
fifth
Right,
grade is 40.
and like fourth grade
Is
is
there
at
34
46
now?
projected, because that's how many we have with residential students. You can't turn away a residential student.
no.
Right.
So for the purpose of this motion, can we just hear the correct numbers one more time?
Sure.
Just on the,
In doing it,
Current capacity.
you can bracket it from like 4K.
Okay, so 4K through fourth grade is at 40,
okay.
fifth grade is at 60, sixth, seventh, and eighth is 50.
Mhm.
Okay.
Ninth through 12th is at, sixth, seventh, and eighth is at 50. Ninth through 12 is at 60.
Got it,
Special ed
okay.
did not change. Well, that's fine, I want to make sure it's
Yeah,
right.
that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so whoever made the motion, you accept that amendment?
Yes,
Remember who, okay. And the second accepts the amendment?
yes, I was a second.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on that? Hearing none then, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The student Chromebook purchase agreement. That was the letter we had in our school board packet. Someone like to make a motion one way or the other, approve or?
I'll make a motion to approve the student Chromebook purchase agreement.
Okay.
Are there questions, comments from administration?
It should be noted for the video, people watching that, if for the class of 2020, the cost would be $100, or the price would be $100, and for the class of 2021, $50, and the cost of from the class of 2022 and beyond would be $25, because the machine, the devices will be older as they flow through.
Then we'll further state for them that students in grades 9 through 11 are each receiving a Chromebook with a case that they'll keep through their high school career here. And when they leave, they have that option to purchase it. The school district will erase anything sensitive or controls that the school district put on it, and the student can take it with them for that cost.
Can I ask a question on that? What happens if they don't want it?
Then we're gonna reuse it someplace else in the building, right? And they don't go home during the summertime. That way Stephen can clean them up, reboot them. Yeah.
Okay, so they stay in the school in the summer?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then we have the girls swim team cooperative with Sturgeon Bay, Gibraltar, and Southern Door. Do you have comments you want to make on that?
Yes, Gibraltar's looking to join the tryout to make it a quad. There is some concern on the part of our participants that it will move us up a division. Sturgeon Bay has stated that they contacted WIA because there's 2 divisions for swimming, and they heard from the WIA that we'd still remain Division 2. Mrs. Wiesner followed up with a contact with the WIA, and they said that they cannot make that guarantee until February when they have all the enrollments and how many schools will have swim to where that actually will be, and that will flex every February. Also concerned on our girls is what time practice will be, because right now they practice at 3:45 until 5:15 on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and from 7 to 9 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if Gibraltar's coming down for practice at the Sturgeon Bay YMCA, what time can they get there? So would the practice be from 7 to 9 or not? Sturgeon Bay is the host school, so we really don't have much choice but to go along with it. But those are concerns of our students and our student athletes that are participating, and they're real concerns.
It looks like we have as many participants as Sturgeon Bay, if not more, right?
At this current time for girls swimming, correct, yes. But if we're going to be part of the team, I think we have to approve it, and the division where we fall, that's what it is. But I don't like high school kids practice till 9 at night, every single night. And if you imagine the Gibraltar girls and boys getting done at 9, showering, driving back to Gibraltar, that's a late night. It's okay once in a blue moon, but not. And the Tuesday, Thursday works out okay for us because most meets are Tuesdays and Thursdays already, so there's not that many 7 to 9 practices. But I guess that's logistics I'll have to figure out with the YMCA and the pool if we're on a team. So there's not much we can do about
I
it.
didn't bring that part with me, but there's only a couple of kids from Gibraltar wanting to join, like 1 maybe and 2.
I did not see any confirmed numbers of how many they're bringing, right? But they do want that opportunity, so.
So Kyle, is our athletic director then responsible for advocating for what's best for?
Yes, but we're going to be very limited with pool time and availability that works for all 4 schools, so our hands are tied pretty much. Right.
With swimming lessons, everything else that goes on at the Y.
Right.
Karen, in answer to your question, it was 2 from Gibraltar for 1920. For the girls team, 2 participants.
Okay.
That's what they have listed.
That's what they're projecting.
Right.
Right.
Can we hear a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the girls swim team cooperative agreement.
I'll second that.
For 1920? For the school year 1920? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay. All in questions or further questions or comments?
Well, my question is, when the cooperative agreement, we're also agreeing to these fees though too, right?
Correct, which has been the arrangement all along, although my understanding is Sturgeon Bay's been undercharging us by not putting in the cost of the pool rental.
That's a percentage. The fees are a percentage.
Percentages are based on how many participants you have out of the total team or a maximum, or, right.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then a motion on the boys swim team cooperative agreement.
Similar situation, boys, we have less participants, so we have 1 this year and potentially 2 next year. And the breakdown would be 6-2, 6-2. Sturgeon Bay, Sebastopol, Southern Door, Gibraltar.
Can you hear a motion?
I would move to approve the boys swim team cooperative agreement for 2019-20.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
Further questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then can we hear a motion on the resignation of Lucas Stevenson?
I'll move to approve the resignation of Lucas Stevenson.
I'll second that.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. This is The Communications Committee talked about recognition, and the first one specifically is the CFAC. We had a member call wondering if the school district was going to do something to recognize their work. So I went back from 2017 to look to see on our board agenda what kind of donations we had. So you can, they're listed there, and you can see they're varied and generous. So what we discussed at the Communication Committee is on the second page for the facility, for the CFAC. We could do a short thank you in the Pioneer Times listing their names, repost that article on social media, list them in the annual school district report. We don't get a lot of people coming out, but some schools do that. They list their donors in their annual school district report. We could do a reception before a school board meeting or at the annual district meeting, inviting those people and having cookies and punch or cake and ice cream or something. We should remember those committee names and include them in significant events, such as the groundbreaking or the opening and dedication. We talked briefly about creating a stewardship page on the website, not maybe doing that right now, but if we do that, put them on there. And then giving them one of the VIP, the very important Pioneer Pass that gets them into school events to admit to. So specifically on our agenda is resignation of the rest of it isn't on the agenda tonight. This is for the CFAC. So looking for your thoughts on those recommendations.
I think it is a good idea to recognize them. I did get a feedback from a couple of people on the committee saying they didn't feel very valued. So I think this will be good to do this. So I'm not sure just what, but maybe several of these things would be a possibility.
Well, I think they're all, I think the article in the Pioneer Times and reposting it on social media, that's a natural. Listing it in the school district report is not going to be any effort and kind of a natural. Remembering them at significant events is kind of a natural thing. To me, the big question is, do you feel we want to do a reception, some kind of a gathering reception?
That could even be included into the groundbreaking ceremony, because that's going to be kind of an event day and recognizing and then having cake and punch, I guess, if we're going to do all these other things. That's not going to be until 2020 when we actually break ground, correct?
Next spring? No. I guess it's only winter now.
I think so many of these people we might have lost now for winter, being snowbirds and such. I'm not sure, but
It's hard to get them to come just for
right.
a reception.
Right. So would you agree then that we do the Pioneer Times, posting on social media, school district report, stewardship page if we ever create that, and give them a VIP pass and remember them for future events?
Because with that VIP pass, it could be, on those note cards that we've now ordered, we could sign those and include that in it and mail it to them as a thank you.
Would it make sense to go to one more step when it comes to reporting, like either through the Pulse or the Advocate, and have the writer do something like it takes a community and then list their names? Just because, I think that's the piece that I really want to celebrate, is the fact that this huge group of people came together and made something happen with this festival. And sometimes the glory of seeing, reading an article about that and seeing your neighbor's name on it in the article or listed might be some, they get accolades then from other people in the community.
So maybe the reporter could talk to some of them that he could make contact with and have some.
And it would also celebrate us again having passed the referendum, and you know what I'm saying? That was tremendous work by
That was a lot of work.
It took that many folks to pull it off.
Yeah.
Right.
And we need to say that, I think.
Yeah.
And I guess I go the next step of it takes a community, just because that's what makes Stark County so special, I think.
Not to speak out of turn, any thought to doing a plaque or something on the new building?
I brought some ideas to the communication committee. You know, there's plaques, there's certificates. We can get a little red keychain that looks like a school and have CFAC's Festival 2019 engraved on it for $3. But the committee really thought people have enough stuff.
I wasn't thinking a plaque to them, but a plaque that you actually put on a wall or
Oh.
a place of honor in the new building.
Like at the Justice Center, they have that, when they built the Justice Center in York County, they have a huge plaque that they put on.
Yeah, we have all the plaques for the different things for the government center as well. They're all right outside my office now. We moved there.
But there again, that's that.
It's always
That's
there.
a community recognition.
Mhm.
It's permanent.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Both of those are good ideas.
I think it's important to do something now as well as something in the future.
The ribbon cutting, yeah, that's a great idea here. Just-
All right, so I'm removing the reception and I.
Yeah, I don't know if they want to come to another event.
Yeah. So, and I've added a Pulse article and a future plaque. So if someone wants to make a motion that, to approve these forms of recognizing the CFAC,
I'll make a motion to approve the outline of items to recognize our CFAC members currently in the future recognition.
Lisa, what was the other, you feel, feature plaque, and what was the other one?
It's a Pulse article. So Karen made a motion, is there a second to that?
I second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so we'll get those things rolling as the time comes up. The rest of this, I guess we'll put on another agenda. We did also come up with some suggestions for monetary donations, staff recognition, coach recognition, so I'll carry that over for the next meeting. We can look at that in the meantime. Then we have to appoint strategic planning committee board members. I wanted to open it up to anybody that hadn't served on, like on the CFAC, a major committee, but for various reasons, people can't commit to that. So Sue reached out and said she wanted to serve. Cindy, I didn't hear from you. You want to? So it would be Cindy, Sue, and I. If someone wants to make that motion.
I'll make a motion to nominate Sue Today, Cindy Ehlers, and Lisa Berry to the Strategic Planning Committee.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 2019-2020 school calendar, some discussion.
We've talked about it a couple times at team, and I did visit with the student council.
Last Friday, I
It
think.
might have been last Friday, sure. I couldn't tell you what day it was, but I did meet with them. It was interesting with the student council. They had various opinions. They didn't realize how complex it was. That's when we had them here in December. Spring break was very important. It wasn't as important to everybody as those that spoke. Some said, oh, wait a minute. If we might end up back in school in August of 2020 to make a good summer of 2021, maybe we don't want that. A couple commented every week that they're in school in June and $700 out of their pocket working summertime jobs. When the student council spoke last time, they talked about mental health and having a break in the spring. I kind of kiboshed that because I said it was that easy that a mental health issue where you have depression or suicide and you just go on vacation for a week and come back and be fine. That's making kind of light of mental health issues to me. That's not. Otherwise, every doctor would just send you away on vacation for a week and you're fine. That's not how it really is. And I thought that was a poor reason for it. And I said, if that's the case, then we should go 9 weeks on, 3 weeks off, so you could recoup, regenerize, and come back, and we do year-round schooling if that was the case. But I don't think that's a legitimate argument. So I've worked on a calendar here. The X's are no school days, the circles are in service, and the triangles are early release. I tried to keep the early release to a minimum. Two of them are because of parent-teacher conferences, and one is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. With this scenario, at the end of May, we would have 1,136.56 hours of instruction. Grades 7 through 12 need 1,137 hours of instruction, so they have a 0.44 advantage, or they're short 0.44 going into June. We know we're going to get some snow up here. So I extended out till June 4th with giving allowance for 3.56 snow days then. A few notes I have here is January 2nd and 3rd, and we talked about this as the admin team. Do you come back on the 2nd and 3rd? Or what do you do with a 2-day week like that? It gets in the flow, but you start and you stop. But they do have off because Christmas is on Christmas Eve is on a Tuesday, so we wouldn't come on Monday the 23rd, so you have a long stretch there from the 21st, the Saturday of December, all the way through the 1st already. So we thought we'd like to get back. Some support staff came up to me and said, if we're hourly employees and we don't start working again until the 6th, our pay periods, we're off for a long time now without pay, which was an angle I hadn't thought about, so it was good discussion there. So my recommendation at this point would be to go on the 2nd and 3rd without a spring break. However, take Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, and the Monday after Easter off, so that's a nice long weekend there for someone who does need to go on a vacation. I know they're missing Easter, but you can go, I had a handful of cousins that went to Mexico for Christmas because that's what they chose to do. So it's Christmas and it's Easter no matter where you are. So there's a little option there. The March 13th in-service day, if we got heavy on the snow, we could cancel as in-service and have the students attend, make sure we get our hours. There's also the idea of adding 8 minutes on per school day. That the kids last time talked about 10 minutes. 8 minutes works better for the middle school, high school schedule because they have 8 hours in a day, so it'll be 1 minute per class period. The problem there is the 4K through 5 kids, their day is lengthened as well, so you get the 4 and 5-year-olds that now have 10 more minutes of school, and there's the logistics of do you add it on at the beginning of the day or end of the day? Well, we don't want to get too early so kids get here in time to have time at home in the morning, but then on your Wednesday night, especially for practices, you just cut into practice by another 8-10 minutes. Over 160 days, you gain 1,280 minutes, which is 21.33 hours, which is equal to 3.25 current school days. I think I would hold off on the 8 minutes per day for the 2021 school year piece, because I think that when we talk to the construction people, that summer at 21 is really large. When I talked to student council about that, I told them, I said, they're gonna finish that new addition, we're gonna move all the furniture from the 46 and 24 section of the building into that one. They're gonna renovate parts of 65 and 98. Then they're gonna demolish 24 and 46 and put up a parking lot before the school year rolls in that fall of 21. So that's a huge summer, so I think I'd hold off on that. So yeah, that's what I have for a calendar. I just want your discussion now tonight. I can bring it back next month for a decision, but I just kind of where I'm at this point.
June 4th would be the last day of school?
Well, at June 4th on this calendar would be last day for the students and the 5th for the teachers, correct?
So we're really not shortening the school year much, it seems like.
Well, it's just how you play around with it, Yeah, I mean.
Well, there are less circles in service days.
In-service days.
1, 2, 3. So it's all the in-service days.
Well, we need in-service too, because the teachers got to get the curriculum and the work done there too. So it's a balancing act. It's between student hours, curriculum work.
I do like the idea of the day after Easter off. I agree. I think that's a good move.
Can I interject something?
Sure.
For Christmas break, it kind of breaks up the week, but why don't we come back on the 30th, go to 30th and 31st, off the 1st, and go for 2nd and 3rd? I mean, why do we need the 30th and 31st off?
You're gonna come Monday and
Come Monday, Tuesday, you're off Wednesday because it's a legal holiday, you go Thursday, Friday.
Go to school the 30th and 31st?
I mean, you already have from the 21st through
I don't-
the 29th off.
I don't think the 31st will sit with people. A lot of people do family dinners and things on the 31st.
And with the fact that they are losing a spring break, the spring
Yeah,
break,
I think that makes
that gives them an
Makes
opportunity
up for
to take a travel trip.
Yeah.
You know, because most people, you know, and if they opt to pull their kids the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before Easter, that's their choice. But
I think that's what's gonna happen.
And it might, right, and they might even pull them Tuesday, they might even pull them Thursday, Friday, the second and third, but
I think
don't-
we get some flack on the 31st.
I do too.
And when I talked to the student council, they said someone's going on vacation, we go on vacation regardless of when spring break is.
I know, they're gonna go.
Oh, sure.
Right. So that they'll take vacation when their parents have off work and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of other factors that go into it.
Yeah, I think it is what it is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, you did a pretty good job, I think.
I think the next year is gonna be even trickier, but this looks good.
It's just some of the challenges of the building, so.
Well, I'd like you to sit on it and come back in February.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move to administrators' reports. Mr. Hiltz.
For starters, Happy New Year, everyone. Something I didn't include in the written report, though, that is something that I want to share with everyone. We had a prospective family that came through the other day. They have a 4th grade boy. They're coming up from the Madison area. Sitting down with them before we took a walk through the halls, I asked them what were they looking for in a school, what kind of questions could I answer for them, and one of the things they talked about was having a family, homey feel. And the thing that impressed me, you know, sometimes you're close up so you don't see things as well as someone who sees it from a distance or seeing it for the first time. And after we got done with our tour, they came back to the office and were very, very impressed. And they said, you know, we could very easily and quickly see just how caring and how dedicated the staff is here, how happy the students are, and really just what kind of a family feel this environment has. So I thought it was important to pass that along, also share that with staff. It's not something that you cultivate, you know, in a matter of a month or so. This is something that exists here, and so it's something to be very, very proud of. So I want to share that. We have 2 new hires, as you know, from last month. Both are doing very, very well. Missy has picked up the elementary duties very, very quickly and is doing a nice job with those. We have the NAEP testing on the 29th, so that's coming up very quickly. We held our first annual school-wide spelling bee, and that went well today. It was a tough competition right at the end, a lot of back and forth. But the students watching, I thought, did a very nice job of keeping their attention and their focus, and the students who were on stage did a very nice job of keeping their poise and doing a very, very nice job. Also, kudos to Mr. Skiba and Mr. Shelsky for putting the whole thing together. They did a very nice job with it. We have in-service tomorrow, and a big focus of that for the elementary will be the continuation of the science textbooks being implemented. We did some school tours yesterday with the elementary subcommittee, and it generated a lot of good conversation. Ultimately, I think the staff really wants what works well for us. I think they got some ideas yesterday, but you know, that was something that kept coming up over and over again. Is, you know, those were some nice things, but you know, we really need to make sure that we're mindful of what Sebastopol does and does well, and make sure that what we come up with fits that. So,
Questions for Mr. Hiltz? Ms. Barbara?
Great. Good evening. I'd like to start with a letter for all of you from our EL department. So I'd like to pass that out and make sure that you have it just here. It's personal to you. The letter was given to me today, and it is just to let you know the updates that are happening in the EL department and how fortunate they feel to be a part of Sebastopol. So I thought it was nice, and we wanted to share it with you. So as you get a chance to let everybody take a look at it first.
Thank you, Ben.
You're welcome. It's
Thanks,
just,
Ben.
this is a wonderful place to work, and the teams that are being, the work that's being done and the teams that have been created has just been really, really amazing to be a part of for the time that I've been in this position. So Dina Saunders and Julie Salisbury and Mary Jackson, who's the new addition, who I want to introduce to the staff tomorrow because she's a recent hire. They really have been doing amazing work. So also what I'd like to add, and I'm going a little bit off script here, but our immigrant grant that I talked about probably 3 or 4 times in my report, that officially starts tomorrow. The first of 3 professional development opportunities for our teachers to learn strategic English language strategies that can be implemented in the classroom. So there are 11 teachers participating in that, and there's also 5 associates participating in that. So that starts tomorrow. So I'm really happy that we got that off the ground, and we're going to follow through the rest of the year. So I look forward to giving you updates on that status. So on other news, though, we had our child find and our 4K developmental screening, and we have that on January 4th. That is the first of 2 that we're going to have, and we welcome 15 new. I think they'll all be pioneers. I mean, they might open her all somewhere else. We hope they don't. But 15 new students came in, so that was exciting. Kim Lama does an amazing job organizing all of that. I did not realize how much goes into that day and that event and coordinating different services. So she really did a fantastic job coordinating all of that. Community programs are up and running, so I know that Zumba's had 2 weeks in, and I hope it's good. Good reports.
Cornmore first, and then
it is Cornmore first, and then it's Zumba. You're right.
And quilting started last night.
It did start last night, and so did jewelry making. And also Dina Saunders had her first night with the Hispanic and Latino families, and she had 2 families show up, and it's good things start small, but at least it started, and it's a really great way to increase our connection with our, our EL families. On that news, we had Literacy Night on the 15th as well, and I'm sticking with my theme of small things get better. But it was the first time that we had our parents in to give them some teaching strategies to help their kids at home. And we had 5 families show up, and it was great. It was really, really great. They left with tools, they left with really doable strategies to implement at home with their kids. And we asked the families, if this is something that you see that you would like to continue to happen, please let me know. And they said that they would. So we're thinking about math strategies soon. However, in the future, I think these need to happen in the beginning of school, so parents are empowered the entire school year with these strategies. But again, it was good to throw it out there, and it was positive. Again, Diane Jenquin and Tricia Dufek and Kelly Asher did an amazing job of leading our parents through some strategies. We have 2 therapy dog teams that are coming to Sebastopol now. So it is going on our 3rd week. It's really exciting. There's one team that visits Mrs. Broders and helps with literacy with the 2nd grade team along with Ms. Tank. And it's been really fun to watch them come in. More importantly, we have the reading intervention and the reading help, but we also have the therapeutic aspect of having just a dog on site. And we do have a dog that's coming on Wednesdays for an hour. And that dog's purpose is really just to walk around. And if there's an incident that happens, that dog and the therapy dog team can go in and quickly do an intervention, to help de-escalate any students who are in need. So that's been exciting. The kids are really excited. They want to know when the dog's coming back and back and back. And it's 4K kids all the way up to our high school kids. They want the dog and they want to see the dog. So that's been exciting. And then the last thing that I have tonight is that our associate training for in-service, giving them professional development opportunities so they increase their skills along with the teachers when they're here. And they're going to be participating in mental health training or part of the EL focus group in the immigrant grant, or going and participating in some vision therapy to learn those techniques to help our students.
Questions for Mr. Margraf? Okay, Mr. Bear.
Thank you, I appreciate it. We're currently in the process of concluding our registration process for the 2019-20 school year, so we start earlier so we can collect that information. I just want the board to know that we go through several steps to ensure that our students have good guidance through that process, and I listed some of those steps there. This week, we just finished our final exams, so I think our students are really motivated and pleased that they're not done with exams, and they have big plans for the weekend, which is nice. January 18th in service tomorrow. The biggest part of that probably is rolling out the one-to-one computers. We're going to spend about half the day training staff so that we can have a successful rollout. Our goal is to have all those computers in our kids' hands on Monday morning. So we're really moving forward quickly. We had a wonderful opportunity too at the secondary level to complete some school visits, and we really learned a lot. It was really valuable. So we visited 3 schools, Kewaskum, Sheboygan, and Kewanee. Kewaskum was really an interesting visit for us because it's similar to our project. They had a 1960 high school and they added on a middle school. In our situation, of course, we've got about a 1961 high school and we're adding on an elementary school. But it was very nice to see the transition that they made and how they put those pieces together. It really looked like one building when it was done. And they did that with some very simple renovations. The biggest thing was adding natural light, which is really nice, and it made the building feel warm and open. Opened up some of their hallways, it was wonderful. The takeaway from Kewanee, and excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm sick. The takeaway from Kewanee is the open concepts that they had in their classrooms. And it was really nice to look at the technology space because they have 20,000 square feet in their technology facility. But they have one teacher, similar to what we're going to have. So to be able to stand, and I know the board has seen some of that, but stand in one room, but look all the way through all of their classrooms and monitor that entire space was really unique and important. So Mr. Lidke is helping follow up to get some additional plans and so forth so we can see that and maybe make it part of our project. District collaboration. I've had a few schools take notice of our staff and students' performance here at Sebastopol, and it's really been special to make some connections with them. Portage has contacted us, and they're very interested in our math and ELA achievement, and Gillette contacted us regarding our ELA achievement and those resources that we're using. Each time we have that connection that's made, it's an opportunity for collaboration. So just in my conversations with Gillette, I've learned about their school day schedule, which is a little different than ours, but unique and different, and I think we can take some ideas. In addition to that, we're in Door County and we know what happens in Door County and we're familiar with our environment, but to extend ourselves a little bit further helps. So we're looking for opportunities to do some collaboration between the staffs as well. Maybe just via voice. They've asked to come visit, but we'll see what works best for both of our schools or all 3 of our schools. But it's neat to have those conversations. Other school-related activities, every year there's a VFW essay contest. This year the writing prompt was why I honor the flag. They recognized 6 students in grades 6 through 8, and we had 4 out of the 6 place winners here at Sebastopol. Wow. So it's really nice to see that our kids are participating in these events, and then their writing is being recognized. Sebastopol boys basketball win over Algoma. It's a big deal. We were all very excited, and they followed up with a wonderful game against Gibraltar. Yeah. It's too bad that didn't end a little different, but they're definitely doing well, so I wanted to give them some recognition for that. ACT Boot Camp is February 9th and 16th. There's another thing that maybe some of you saw John Gass' article, but he talked about referees and supporting referees and officials. And one of the things he mentioned is a program that we're working on here at Sebastopol where we're going to invite Paul Spudi to come in and work with our juniors and seniors, talk to them about referee and the importance of sportsmanship and that kind of thing, but at the same time offer training opportunities if they want to become officials. One of the challenges we have with athletics is finding officials, and it's very difficult for us. Each year we try to raise we pay them so that we have access to officials. But in this situation, we were looking at potentially maybe having them work with a veteran to do a 4th or 5th grade basketball game, assuming that's okay with the 5th grade basketball coach. I'm not sure yet. So.
The 2 we've had so far have been all right. They haven't teed me up yet.
Yeah. So we're working on that, but I really think it'll be good for our students, especially our student athletes, to see the challenges that officials have and at the same time participate in that way. We had a middle school incentive, and I just want to share that the last incentive was dodgeball, and we had for the first time a 6th grade team win the entire tournament. A couple of takeaways from that: we have a teacher team, and our teacher team must be aging or slowing down because we did not do as well. So, but we sure have fun having those activities with the kids. Thank you.
So what were the three guys with the, wearing the officials' uniforms the other night, standing?
And it's wearing officials' uniforms.
There were three like high school kids.
They were probably
They were all wearing referee uniforms.
stripes.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the girls' game or what?
No, that was at the boys' game.
I have no idea.
I didn't see that either. No.
Oh, they were standing and the referee came over and shook their hands and they were in the middle and then some people complained they were standing up, so then they moved down to the other side of the student section.
Well,
I knew who they were.
I'll have to check into that. No. I'm
I
sorry.
hope they weren't making fun of the referees.
No, I don't think so. The referee
Well,
came
okay,
over
were
and
they
shook
there,
their
I
hands.
didn't stay for the varsity game, were they there the whole varsity game? Because I
They were
think
there
there
for
was
the
a,
varsity game, yeah.
because I think there was an elementary game down in the gym where the kids
Oh,
refereeing down in
So they were
elementary.
referees? Because I thought, well,
I
that's
think Garcia
expensive.
referee
Yeah.
down the elementary
Yeah.
gym.
Well, it wasn't Eddie Garcia, he was
Okay,
playing
then
ball.
I don't know.
Because we had a fourth grade game going on and I think we had some kids involved.
Okay, because they all had referee outfits on. I
Sure.
thought, well, you don't just buy a shirt like that.
That-
I don't know.
To,
Okay,
on that point that Adam made, I don't know if you all saw the article in the paper, and also there was a news article on TV about officials where the WIA has come out and said that they are having a very hard time getting officials, and where in some school instances their events are being canceled or postponed because they can't find officials. And
Especially younger.
and the biggest thing that the WIA over the 3-year study is that the officials get tired of dealing with parents. And I have not seen it in the games that I've been in here, but I've officiated in other places. And I've officiated here at Sebastopol where we ejected a parent. Because it's like, it was a freshman game and it just, you don't need that. And it's like, so I say as a board and as a community members, if you see that, police it, take care of it, because it's there's no place for it. I mean, it's one thing to be berated by a coach. You hope the coach knows what he's talking about. But some of the comments you hear in the stands from the parents, you just shake your head, it's like, what are you talking about? You have no clue. But when they call you every name in the book and it's like, I don't talk to you like that, why should you talk to me like that? You know, it gets old. So officials, there's a very, very big shortage on it. So.
that's interesting. I read that article too, but what's interesting is one of the news media here in Door County, about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, did an article that Door County schools aren't having trouble finding officials, and quoted,
Not as much as what other.
And Green Bay and Biggers, yeah.
so, okay, as an official, as a former official, obviously we don't want to be calling the ref names and things, but people just generally comment. Is that,
Well, it's one thing to disagree with a call, and we as.
I mean, if somebody says, man, call him 3 seconds.
Well, and that's, to disagree with a call, we know that that's part of the game. You know, my father said, especially when I did county league, they paid their $4 or they paid their $3 to say what they want. That's fine, they can disagree with the call. But when it starts getting personal or derogatory, that's where it's like, okay, we don't, that's, I mean, I don't want to be yelled at. If I make a bad call and they call me out, hey, I deserve it, you know, and I know, and a good official will know right away when I make a bad call. It's like, yeah, I blew that one, you know, and.
Well, they are only human.
Well, exactly.
Make a makeup call someplace else.
Well,
along the
and
way.
that, I mean, as a good official.
You don't do that because it just gets worse. But then you keep
Exactly.
score that. Yeah, you can't
I'm-
keep score of
But
it.
it's when it gets personal and derogatory.
Yeah.
That's when it gets out of hand. I mean, to disagree, you can only you're only gonna please 50% of the people 50% of the time. Because it's going against somebody all the time.
Well, the other thing it does, it just ticks the ref off, and then they take it out on the home team.
Whichever team is yelling.
Whichever team is yelling, yeah.
Well, a lot of times, you know, you complain and then it's over. But if you continue to ride.
Exactly, and if you continue to
That's
ride, and even as
all.
coaches, if you continue to ride that official about a call 3 trips down the court and you're still raving about it, that's what's gonna get that official upset. It's like, okay, it's done, it's over, move on.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Okay. Superintendent.
Lisa, before the staff are done, I just want to make a comment. It's so refreshing to hear the three of you talk about your staff. You obviously have amazing passion and commitment to Sebastopol, but I just love how you hold your staff up. And I just wanted to recognize the three of you by saying it starts from the top down. So obviously their passion and commitment and all of the accolades that the three of you pay your staff every time you come to this board meeting is a direct result of your leadership. So I just wanted to say that because it's so nice to come and hear you hold your staff up. But I wanted to hold you and say the board, the management here. I mean, it's very nice.
Mr. Husky.
I just was on the 2 tours with both the groups as well, and we came home with more ideas than, it's interesting because you see this, that, and the other, and now we got to bring her back, so it's going to be good. The core playing team's going to have their work cut out because we saw so many different ideas and concepts and stuff, but it was exciting for the staff to get out there. It was good. We took a custodian each trip, and they see things a little bit differently. Amy Lautenbach went the second time, so there was just 2 good days. They were long days, but they were well worth it to get out there and see. And each project was a little bit different, so that was good for them. Just yesterday we were at North Fond du Lac. Their project, they're in the middle of it. They're moving kids in April, so it was good to see it in the middle of construction, but it was finished enough that you could see what it's going to be like. So it was just 2 great days. And then wanted to comment on Brad Russell's driver's ed program. He's starting his first session the 23rd of February. He has 13 students signed up, 11 of which are Sebastopol kids. And so far for his June session, he has 5 kids signed up and 4 of them were ours. So that's pretty good to be that far ahead to have that many. So.
Where will he operate as a base out of here?
It's going to be Mr. Sleich's room,
Okay.
Math room, and the rate we gave him for the facility, then he's passing on the savings to our kids. So the Sebastopol kids are paying less than the other kids. So it's good. Yeah, it's good.
Anything else from you?
Well, that's all I got for that.
I don't have anything other than the student council report, which says I was not able to find a student for tonight's meeting. It's like a Friday night for them because they don't have school tomorrow. Finals also have them done with school for the week. Here's our short update. The student council organized the snow day on December 21st, the last day of school before the holiday break. There were board games, computer games, cookie decorating, ginger house decorating, movies, and games in the gym. It was well attended and students enjoyed the day. Mr. Lutke attended our last meeting to explain the potential construction calendar. The council quickly recognized how complicated a school calendar can be. Mr. Lutke listened to the council's ideas and feedback. The students enjoyed the conversation and information that was shared.
I didn't send in a written report, but I did just get something a short time ago on possible federal shutdown impacts on our students. I don't know if we have any children from Coast Guard families.
We do.
Yeah.
That we need to be cognizant of what impact the federal shutdown might be having on those families and then consequently on those children. And families who depend on food stamps could be affected if the shutdown drags on into February. And I also got a statement that school lunch program funding is scheduled now to last through February. But if this shutdown goes on for a longer period of time, that could impact our federal funding for the lunch program.
I saw in the news tonight that some schools were already starting to ration food.
Yes.
Because of that.
Yes.
How many families are we talking?
For Coast Guard?
For Coast Guard family.
I know one.
I mean, so we
Staff
should,
member too.
offer them free lunch at the very least.
That was my next question. I mean, Mr. Lidkey and I had kind of briefly talked about that today, but what's the direction of where we should go for this?
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out, but
Yeah.
it is.
We'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Administration will take
Yeah.
care of the folks who got it, yeah.
So on that, do I still continue to submit my claims each month, even though, because every month I have this submitted claim
Yeah.
for the federal food,
There was no reference, in what I received, there was no reference to anything about claims, but I would think the DPI food service people would be on it.
Okay, I'll get something.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of people stepping up in Door County to help those postcard
Right.
families. There've been some free loans for them, different
Yeah.
businesses are offering things, so it's
But
not enough, but it's great the way people are stepping up to help.
And certainly there's stress in the home due to this, and obviously that the children pick up on that, and they may need some special services because of that, and not just food and clothing and things, but mental health kinds of things.
Door County has the largest amount of Coast Guard in our state.
Yes, yeah.
So, I mean, it's.
I think I read there were 100, I didn't realize there are 100 families here? Oh, sure.
There's a lot of houses, in Sturgeon Bay that are, tax exempt because they're Coast Guard, owned by the government.
100
I believe that.
families.
Just something to be aware of, and,
Thank you, sir.
yeah.
Anything on the budget report, Mr. Lukey?
Just, if you look at the budget report and you go to the end of December 31st, when you're looking at the percentage used, like example, on the expense one for the permanent full-time, for the elementary instruction, it's at 33.36%, and that's like right on because that pay starts in September through December, and then we pay them all the way through, we pay them through June 30th, but the pay goes through August. So when you're looking at that and you're wondering, is that close to where it should be or not? For a school year position at 33% would be accurate, and then if it's a year-round employee, it should be 50%. And
It should be pretty flush with cash now, you just got your settlement this week.
we appreciate that.
You got everybody's good too, everybody send their money?
Yeah, finally. It wasn't as much as I was figuring, but.
Well, exactly, hey, December, I could only get it in the bank so fast.
No, but I mean, what I mean by that is, I think less people are paying.
What?
I think less people are paying their full.
Well, December was very different last year because everybody wanted to beat the rush to get in for tax purposes.
Right. And now.
Now it will come later, you'll get it a month later.
Well, no, and that's
There's still.
my limited experience. I just saw a change.
I mean, there was
Yeah.
a lot last year.
Right.
It was big.
Okay.
The only other thing I would say about the budget was if you look at like general supplies, workbooks, and paper, those should be closer to 100% because we're halfway through the school year, and hopefully our teachers have made those purchases and gotten those through their budgets. So that's, and then when I looked at it, I thought it was pretty good, so.
And you cut them off pretty soon.
Yeah, yeah, because it's January.
Yeah.
Any questions on the budget document?
Well, the only other comment I have on that is Gina and I sat in a presentation today for a possible new operating system for new accounting system. Because the one that we have it's been in place for 6 years, but it's kind of old, it's kind of inadequate. And the system that we're looking at is Skyward, which all school districts in Door County use. From what I'm being told, about 90% of the state uses, and just by the presentation, it's so much easier to use than what we're using right now.
Do we have Alio now?
We have Alio now.
And Carl should tell you that his support for Alio has changed.
Right, we had a firm down in Madison that if we called them, you talk to two ladies and they, whatever you needed, they would do. As of July 1, they are no longer, because there's so few schools that are using Alio, they just didn't feel it was feasible for them to keep. So now if I have to call for support, you call Pennsylvania, you make a phone call, they put you in the queue, and it can be anywhere from 15 minutes to 3 hours before they get back to you. And one time I was in the middle of payroll and I had a problem, and it was 2.5 hours before they got back to me. So I was here kind of late. I mean, nothing I can do about it, but it's, you know. So we're looking at that. We may have a presentation for you next month, because they said it's from the time that they start implementation to where it's go live, it's usually, they said, at least 6 months. So if we can get it started in March, we would be go live in, well, it would be in October, but it's before the construction starts, because there's things that this system can do for us that our system can, as far as assets and paying bills and grouping things and that if we can get it before we start the bills on that, would be much nicer.
I've toured the Skywood facilities and heard some of their presentations. They're pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's the new system that they have works a lot like Windows, and it's just where the one that we have now is. I mean, I came into it blind, and I still don't know everything that can be done with it, but it's very cumbersome what we have right now. So that's maybe coming up next month.
Okay. Good. Facilities, anything?
Building, property, and securities met, and we're looking for this summer for projects of because now that we know they're from the past in the direction we're going, the current cafeteria and the 1965 gymnasium, working on those areas and getting those addressed. And it was really neat at Oostburg yesterday, talking to their superintendent. They did renovations and such, and their money went so far. And he says, and now we're going to go after one room after another until we get through each one. And that's what we will do with the 65 part of the building after we get through this. But yeah, this summer we're looking at, and Rock's getting bids on quite a bit for the gymnasium. He has 2 companies, and when we go to school board convention, we're going to look for a couple more to come up here and give us estimates on how to renovate the gym, because our bleachers need to get replaced. And there's no choice there. And so when you're doing that, and the communications committee, I think, is talking about the banners and displays and such, and how we're going to get that a facelift in that. So,
Yeah, the ROC has some decisions relative to color and logo placement and stuff.
Right.
First,
Sound absorption.
and then banners will.
sound
work on that.
absorption, lighting, paint. The floor hasn't been resurfaced in 12, 13, 15 years. Yeah, and that's overdue. So yeah, those are 2 areas we're looking at doing ourselves. When I say ourselves, I mean out of our budget, not out of the referendum budget. Rock may have to hire a company to come in and do it, because his staff can get so much done in a year with getting ready for that coming school year too. So yeah, those are the areas we're focusing on.
Kyle, do we recycle those bleachers?
You can do multiple things. You could recycle them. I would recommend that we do sealed bids on people that are interested in purchasing them, because some of those boards people may want for woodworking projects and such.
Oh, I meant like a recycle, like a...
But you'd recycle the metal part, absolutely, yeah. You're not gonna get much, because I did it at a previous school, and the bleachers are $35,000 for one side, and you don't get a whole lot, but yeah.
As far as the wood, you got the bonfire coming up at homecoming.
Well, those boards are too nice for a bonfire. You do, yeah, well, I did last time I did that, it was, yeah.
If there is no other business, so I'll take a motion to adjourn and convene to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Karen?
Aye.
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 Motion carried at 9:34 p.m. Okay, we will call to order at 10:50 p.m. Can we do your contract, because it's not on here? I guess
Administrator
administrator.
contract,
Yep.
that's on the
Okay, will someone make a motion on the district administrator's contract?
I would move to extend the district administrator contract with a 1% increase over the
Professional staff.
the teacher staff raise, plus an additional 5 vacation days. Does that cover it all?
I'll second
Do you
that.
want to say roll the days?
What?
Roll the days?
Roll the days, and to be able to roll the unused vacation days into sick days.
I'll second that as well.
Okay.
Karen, you got that? Yep. Okay, questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. High school, middle school, high school principals contract. Is there a motion on that?
I'll move that the middle school, high school principal get the same raise as the teacher's contract
And extend for 1
and
year?
extend for another year.
I'll second that.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Elementary assistant middle school principal.
I'll make a motion to approve Bogdan Solenko as the new,
Wait,
No,
elementary.
elementary.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She's breaking up the
Elementary principal.
Administrative ones.
Elementary middle school principal. Someone make a motion.
I'll move to extend the contract of the elementary middle school principal and give him the same raise as the professional staff.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Pupil Services Director.
I would move to extend the pupil services contract for an additional year with the same pay as the professional staff raise.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And then the girls' high school soccer varsity
There
assistant
you go,
coach.
Karen.
I'll make a motion to approve Bogdan Solenko as the high school girls varsity assistant soccer coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Our next meeting is February 21st of 2019. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you.